divided highway ends. Can someone drink alcohol and drive safely? The correct answer would be no one. No one at all can drink alcohol and drive safely. There are intersections with control signals that have sensors to detect vehicles when a car stops with a red light behind the pedestrian line. Alcohol reduces all the skills necessary to drive safely, such as judgment, reaction, vision, and concentration. What is the first thing that alcohol affects? The judgment of a person. A yellow traffic sign, like this one, warns us of right lane reduction. When preparing to drive, you must put on your seatbelt correctly and make sure that all passengers also put on their seatbelts. All drivers and passengers with vehicles manufactured after 1972 are required to travel with a seatbelt in place, unless they have a medical certification stating that they cannot put on the seatbelt. If you're driving on a road and see this traffic sign on your right, it tells us that we are approaching a railway crossing. When you arrive at an intersection and see a pedestrian with a white cane with the intention of crossing, you must stop completely and give way. Take special care when he approaches because he is blind. Always stop before turning right on a red light and look both ways to see if there are pedestrians or cyclists at the crosswalk. If you drive on a road where there are large puddles of water due to heavy rain, when using your brakes, they may not work properly. This is due to hydroplaning when a tire encounters more water than it can scatter. Motorcycle drivers have the same responsibility as car drivers by law. They must obtain a Class E license or higher or a motorcycle license. When driving on a main road with traffic lines, choppy white color lines, tells us that the vehicles move in the same direction and you can change lane when safe. When you drive on a street with double continuous lines, the drivers must know that passing is not permitted in that area. A solid white line on the pavement indicates that you cannot cross those lines unless it is to avoid an accident or absolutely necessary to do so. When traveling on a residential avenue, you must always yield to vehicles that want to merge into traffic, such as school or passenger buses. When there are cyclists driving in your lane, you should increase following distance and pass with at least 3 feet away. When you are going to change lanes to the right, you need to check if there are vehicles in the blind spot. How would you do this? That is correct. Turning your head and looking over your right shoulder, briefly and carefully. Never pass a stopped vehicle at a stop sign because a pedestrian may be crossing in front of the stopped car. Maybe you can't see it. When trying to drive in reverse, slowly check everything around you. When driving with the window down, you should not rest your elbow on the window. What is the maximum height allowed between the pavement and the bottom of the front and rear bumper of a 3,000-pound, 5,000-pound pickup truck? Correct answer would be 28 inches tall. If you are going to tow another vehicle with a chain or rope, you must place a white flag in the center of the towing chain or rope. Being distracted while driving is extremely risky behavior. Which category is the most dangerous? Sending text messages would be the correct answer. If you are driving and your right wheels come off the pavement, you should apply the emergency brakes. If you have a car with conventional brakes, in case of emergency, you must pump the brakes to stop in an emergency situation.
Real quick, I made the Driving TV Ultimate Guide so you don't waste hours reading boring stuff that you don't even need. This is straight to the point, exactly what they'll test you on. You'll know what to expect on the test day, what maneuvers they want, the requirements, everything. I even packed in 100 real DMV questions and answers. If you want to pass on the first try, grab it now, links in the description.
Indicate the name of the warning sign. Hill or slope. On a street with 3 or more lanes, the center lane is used only for left turns. What is the maximum and minimum speed for driving on a fast road? "70 miles per hour, the maximum, and 50 miles per hour, the minimum. Now, when you intend to turn right at a green light intersection, you must give way to pedestrians and cyclists coming from anywhere. How is this signal named, or what is it called? Crossroad would be the correct answer. A load that extends more than 4 feet over the sides of a vehicle and beyond the rear must be clearly marked during the day with red flags to mark the ends of the load. If you have to cross a bicycle lane to turn right and there is a cyclist traveling in the lane, you must yield to the cyclist and turn behind the cyclist. When driving your car with a child in a booster seat in the back seat, the driver should never take eyes off the road and turn to look at the minor in the back seat. I mean, that's why we have those mirrors that you place and you're able to quickly glance and take a look, make sure that everything's okay. But you do not take your eyes off the road for long periods of time or get distracted because it could cause an accident. If you're going to buy a booster seat for a baby and transport it in your car, you should use the seat established by law and comfortable for your baby. If a driver refuses to submit to a breath test blood test for alcohol, your driving privilege will be suspended for 1 year. When you are preparing to drive before starting the engine, you should make sure you close all the doors of your vehicle. This sign warns us of a low area on the road ahead. Drivers sometimes adopt incorrect ways when driving. The correct way to drive is with both hands holding the steering wheel. If you approach a railroad crossing without control signals, you should be prepared to slow down and listen and watch for any trains that might be approaching. If a car suddenly cuts in front of you in your lane and is going to crash into you, honk your horn and flash your lights, brake hard, and maneuver your car to the right edge. You are stopped on a railway line. The train finishes passing, and you can proceed when it's clear and you are sure another train isn't approaching. If your car breaks down and forces you to park, you need pull completely off the road and park where it is visible 200 feet in each direction. Now, if you are driving on a highway in bad weather and heavy rain forces you to stop, you should move completely out of the traffic lane and put on your hazard lights, also known as the emergency lights. If you are driving on a rainy day and you pass through a low area flooded with water, and when using your brakes, you notice that your car starts to pull more to one side than the other, this means the brakes are wet. When driving on a two-lane highways behind a large vehicle you are trying to pass, make sure it can see you clearly. You should stay at a safe distance behind the truck that you want to pass. If you have a truck in front of you, in your lane, reversing to enter an area on the right, you should stay at a safe distance. The truck may need a lot of room to back up. At what times should you use the front low beams? Between dusk and dawn. In what situation should you change your vehicle's high beams to low beams when in use? within 500 feet of a vehicle when approaching head on, and within 300 feet if you approach from behind. If you are driving at night and another car blinds you in front with its high beams, you should look towards the right edge of your lane to avoid being blinded by the light of the car. If you're driving at night and a cyclist approaches from the opposite lane, you should slow down and avoid turning on high beams. If you are driving at night and suddenly you see a car with only one light, the best thing to do is in this case would be to reduce your speed and try to maintain a safe distance. If a car suddenly veers into your lane, honk your horn, flash your lights, and pull to the right side of the road. If you're driving at night from a brightly lit area and enter suddenly a very dark area, you should slow down until your eyes are able to adjust to the darkness. It is illegal to drive at night with the emergency hazard lights on. If you try to pass a truck at night and the truck flashes its lights, the truck driver is telling you that the road ahead is clear to pass. If you approach a railroad crossing without warning you, so in this case, you should slow down, listen, and watch for approaching trains, because it does happen that sometimes you are approaching a railroad crossing that it's not giving you a warning yet, but you should always be prepared to look around, and you could always somehow listen or even notice from a distance that a train is coming. So you should always be quite alert in this case. Now, if you approach a railroad crossing with the red lights flashing and the bars are lowering, you should come to a complete stop at a railroad crossing. So right in front, you stop. A mark painted on the pavement like this on the picture, what does it mean? It means a railway zone is coming up. The law prohibits passing a vehicle stopped at a crosswalk to allow a pedestrian to cross the street. So you must always stop and do not pass, because a pedestrian may be crossing and maybe you cannot see them. If you are driving on a narrow two-lane road with no shoulder and a cyclist is riding on the right, you should treat the cyclist as if he were a slow vehicle. Do not share the lane with the cyclist at any point. How many feet away should you stay from a cyclist when passing? 3 feet. You're driving on the highway and suddenly you feel like the accelerator pedal is stuck. Place the transmission in neutral and do not try to turn the keys to turn off the engine. If you do this, if you turn off the engine with the key, you will lose the ability to steer the vehicle. How should you proceed if your vehicle catches on fire? Quickly move away from the vehicle as fast as you can. If you have an accident for which you are at fault and you do not have insurance on your car, the law will require you to pay for any damages caused. When another driver indicates with his turn signals that he wants to change into your lane, you must slow down your vehicle to give space to the other driver who merges. If you're driving on a multi-lane road and need to go slower than normal traffic, you must use the you must use the right lane. I'm sorry. So, if you're driving on a multi-lane road and need to go slower than the normal traffic, you must use the right lane. Now, if you intend to take the right lane to turn right at the next intersection, but the lane is occupied by many vehicles, you should turn on your flashing lights and look for an empty space to change lanes. If you are going to pass a truck, you must keep in mind that it needs to be at a safe distance and you need to be seen in the rear view mirrors. So you need to have good visibility. Now, if you are driving on a two-lane road in the same direction and need to change lanes, you must turn on your flashing lights and look over your shoulder to check if vehicles are in your blind spot. What driver can park in a public parking lot and not pay? A driver with a disability or impairment. You should increase the following distance between your vehicle and the vehicle in front when you are being followed closely by another car. If you are at fault for an accident or someone was taken to the hospital, you will have to file a written report to the DMV. How often do you have to check your car's light bulbs? Frequently to change burned out bulbs and maintain clean glasses. Anyone who throws trash out of the car window can be fined, and this includes any type of things that you're smoking, like cigarettes, garbage bags, and everything that is considered garbage. Anything that is considered garbage is a fine. Do not throw anything out of the car window. If you are about to enter traffic lane from a parking lot, you must yield to pedestrians, cyclists, and cars before you join the road. When you're going to tow a vehicle that weighs less than 3,000 pounds, you must place two reflectors, one on each side, and a brake light if the trailer blocks the brake light of the towing vehicle. If you're involved in a minor accident where there are no injuries, try to move the vehicle out of the traffic lanes. If you're arrested for running on public roads, and by running I mean racing, you sure as hell will get your license revoked, among other penalties. There are distractions when driving, such as eating, adjusting the radio, and talking on the phone, that can cause accidents on the road. If you need to perform some of these actions, simply park your vehicle safely. Do not do any of these while you are driving. Why do the roads get slippery when it hasn't rained in a while? Due to the accumulation of oil on the pavements. A broken yellow line indicates that the vehicles may pass each other when it is safe to do so. You are moving on a road where traffic is stopping and moving slowly, but you are approaching a railroad crossing. Now keep in mind that you must never stop on top of the railway lines. If you do, Like if you don't have enough time, it's preferably that you stop before crossing. If you feel that you are unsure that you can make it to the other side, stop your car firmly before crossing, but never on top of the railway lines. A diamond-shaped signal indicates these diamond-shaped signals are always indicating warning signs, alerting drivers of upcoming things in traffic. If you have a car with conventional brakes, in case of an emergency, you must pump the brakes to stop in an emergency situation, of course. If you drive a vehicle with conventional brakes in heavy rain and your car starts to skid, you should take your foot off the accelerator and steer your car in a straight line. Turn signals are also required by law when changing lanes, passing a vehicle, or turning. You must always remember to turn on your turn signal always at least 100 feet, 30 meters before turning. Turning a corner may seem like a simple operation, but many crashes occur because drivers do not turn correctly. When making a turn, you should reduce your speed in which you are turning to a safe speed and get into the correct lane in time. The driver's left arm and hand are extended upward. This hand signal means that the driver plans to turn right or change into the right lane. If a driver puts his hand out the left window and keeps it extended outward, he is telling us they intend to turn left or change into the left lane. Now, if a driver puts his hand out the window and keeps it extended downward, he is telling us that he is going to stop or slow down. And disregard the who in front. That was a mistake, but it is intended to say that he or she is going to stop or slow down. Next question. So, when should you double your following distance? When you are behind another car? Precisely when it rains or the roads are wet, there's low visibility, like dusk, dawn, or it's foggy outside. Now, If you drive a heavy truck or a motorhome, you will need to take in account the distance will be double the following distance just because you are now driving a heavy truck or a motorhome. So you need to be extra careful.